Hey folks at YouTube and Facebook, this is Benjamin Dixon with the Benjamin Dixon Show, and I'm back with Reign of April, April Rain. You can find her on Twitter at Reign of April. And we wanted to take a few extra minutes and talk about Hillary Clinton's emphasis and call for an expansion on early voting. And more specifically, I want to talk about the response of many Republicans that they just, for all intents and purposes, just started blurting out. It really, the one that stuck up. Well, first of all, April, how are you today?
Fine,
Fine,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And you know what? I don't want to quote people out of context, so I'm going to pull up the quote here, and I want to read a couple of the quotes. And these are from Republican candidates, particularly, I believe it was Kasich. And yeah, let me run Governor John Kasich of Ohio. This is what he said on Fox News. He said, don't be, and I'm using his words exactly, so I don't, this is verbatim. He's saying, don't be running around the country dividing Americans. Don't be coming and saying we are deliberately trying to keep people from voting when her own state has less opportunity for voting than my state. Is she going, and she's going to sue my state? How is it that presidential candidate Hillary Clinton asking for an expansion of early voting, how is it possible that that is divisive? Help me out with that, April, because that doesn't make sense to me.
I cannot. It is hypocritical, and it doesn't pass the laugh test. Trying to get more people to vote, trying to expand the early voting time so that people don't have to take off of work, so that people don't have to get babysitters, because and encouraging people to vote, having people vote, sign up to vote, register to vote automatically at age 18. These all sound like good things to those who believe in the democratic, meaning small d, democratic process. Right. I think it was Governor Chris Christie, in that same article, who wanted to say that Clinton suggesting that we should have more early voting will just lead to voter fraud, when it's been proven time and time again by any measure that there really is no such voter fraud, or it is minuscule in comparison to the number of people that stand online for hours for their right to vote.
Right. And I think you're absolutely right about the numbers. I think it was either 2% or 3% of voter fraud nationwide. I'd have to get that statistic because I don't like giving numbers incorrectly, but it was minuscule compared to the larger electorate. And so this entire farce of voter ID laws, it's really not about suppressing. How do you suppress something that is pretty much non-existent? It is clearly about, and a matter of fact, I'm going to play this clip for you guys. The official from Pennsylvania who said these laws are really about helping getting Republican candidates elected. That's clearly what it's about. And so why is it, let's just dig a little deeper, and I think it's obvious to most people, but let's state the obvious. Why is it that Republicans are so fearful of this expansion for voting in most cases, when, like you said, democracy with a small d benefits from more participation?
Because more participation means more democratic, big D, participation. Because when we expand the times to vote, that means that we're talking about people who cannot afford to take off from work to be able to vote on one particular day, right? And who do those people very often, the poor, the working poor, the lower middle class, for whom do they typically vote? Democrats. If we talk about expanding the right for former criminals and former incarcerated people to be able to vote, right, who do they most often vote for? If we talk about decreasing what I consider to be a poll tax, decreasing the cost or eliminating the cost, the financial cost to register to vote, who are those people more likely to vote for? So if you're an older person and you don't have your birth certificate, or you have to show several months of an electricity bill so that you can go and register to vote, in addition to taking the time off to
Right.
go and register. All of these are impediments, which I consider poll taxes for those people who'd like to vote. And once they do have the opportunity to do so,
Mm.
very often they are voting for Democrats. And so I think that's why we see most often Republicans are fighting to expand voting opportunities for American citizens.
Here's a quote that I want to read, and this is from Travis Considine, and he was a spokesperson for the Rick Perry campaign. He said that while it's unfortunate, Governor Perry is not surprised that Hillary Clinton would come to Texas and call for, watch this, weakening the integrity of our election process. Once again, she has demonstrated how truly out of touch she is with the people of Texas. I love their play. I love their play on words, and I personally kind of admire the brilliance with which Republicans engage in propaganda. Just because I'm a political science student and my favorite book is 1984, and just I see how brilliant they are. But for them to say that Hillary Clinton is out of touch with Texas voters because she's trying to expand and give more voters the opportunity to vote. That to me is the most asinine logic, but it's being passed off as something that's noble and that Hillary Clinton doesn't know what Texas voters want. Well, do Texas voters genuinely want a restriction and to not be able to vote or having to go through so many hurdles just to vote? Help me out with this. I'm completely lost on this one, April. I'm sorry.
Well, but if you think about the demographics of Texas, there are a lot of Hispanic Americans who live in Texas.
Mm.
And once again, who do Hispanic Americans, not all, right? Because none of us are a monolith, but very often we find that Hispanic Americans are, finding themselves more leaning toward the Democratic Party than the Republican Party. So it's hypocritical to me to say that Hillary Clinton is attempting to weaken the integrity of the election process by suggesting more people should have the opportunity to vote, which is a constitutional right that is guaranteed us by the United States Constitution. It really boggles the mind how they can string those words together in a sentence and think that we're just going to buy them wholesale.
Here's the worst part, though. Not only do they string it together, which is, I'm with you. I have no idea how they could, what level of cognitive dissonance are they dealing with on an everyday basis? They're either the most brilliant people in the world, or they're the most nefarious, or maybe even both. But not only that they can string together those sentences that make absolutely no logical sense, no philosophical sense, and no political sense, but there are entire swaths of the American populace that believes it. Like they are going to start, like when they say some of these things, you're going to start hearing all through the social media sphere, the blogosphere, the echo chamber. People are going to start repeating it now, honestly thinking that Texas voters don't want to have an easier access to the voting system to elect their officials, all because these machines have put out these statements. Here is the question: chicken or the egg? Are they believing a lot of these voters, and I'm talking about conservative voters, do they believe it just because they're being told these lies and this propaganda, or do they just have a predisposition to believe it? I don't. What do you think?
That's a tough one. And I think it's a little bit of both. I like to say that conservatives, it's amazing how organized their message is. It's loud and wrong, but it's organized. And I think that is a criticism that I have of the Democratic Party, that, it seems that we're fractured and we don't toe the line, whereas Republicans, they have their talking point, and you can see it, especially like on Jon Stewart's the Daily Show. He'll show 8 or 9 different Republicans using the exact same phrase, because I don't know if they send out memos or emails or how that works, but once they decide what they're going to do, they stick behind it. And I think that is the case here. To say that it's weakening the electoral process by attempting to change the rules with respect to voting, I'm sure is something that we're going to hear over and over again on the Sunday morning talk shows. And once it's out there, in the ether, then you're going to have a lot of conservative voters, who will buy it hook, line, and sinker and start to repeat it on their social media platforms. And it's what they want to hear, right? They don't want to change what they believe to be the status quo. And Hillary Clinton is really doing this to attempt to change some of these red states or red counties to purple or blue. And people find that, conservatives find that very intimidating. So they will do whatever they can to keep that from happening.
Absolutely. I love, and we were talking before the video started, I love Rand Paul's response to it. He said, all I can say about myself, that I've tried to make it more inclusive so more people can vote. What were your thoughts about Rand Paul's response?
Well, I think that Rand Paul is taking the high road here, and it's the smart way to go. You always pivot back to what you are doing for your campaign and how you will serve the people of the country, as opposed to talking about what everyone else is doing. So he hit it and quit it, is what I like to say. He mentioned it, but he said that he really didn't know what was going on. I'm not sure that I would have said that. I think you want to show the electorate that you are informed and that you're keeping up, with the latest news. But at the same time, he went right back to, I've got my head down. I'm working for Americans, and this is my plan with respect to voting. And so I think overall, that was a smarter way to go than perhaps Chris Christie or Rick Perry or Kasich, sort of hitting back at Hillary Clinton and making snide remarks and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I kind of like Rand Paul's response to, even though I disagree with Rand Paul on probably 75 to 80% of what he says. I think he played that one smart, particularly because, what type of, and I'll let you get the last word, but what type of voter do you want? Do you really want voters who buy into this? And I know at the end of the day, most politicians will just take voters, right? They'll take whoever they can get. But I think Rand Paul is trying to represent himself in a different way to say that what he stands for is uniquely. I mean, we even saw that with the USA Patriot Act, where he took a stand against his own party. And so it's going to be interesting to see the voters that he pulls from the Republican side, as well as some libertarian leaning Democrats, because I think he's trying to carve out a niche in the electorate that would not buy, absolutely hands down would not buy the propaganda that Kasich and Christie and Perry just gave out with regard to voting rights. You get the last word, April.
I think that's right. Rand Paul, the Tea Party really is not Rand Paul's base. It's much more independent and libertarian. And he even has some slightly socially liberal views, if we're talking about particular issues. And so it is smart for him to carve out a niche of, perhaps more center left leaning Republicans and try to snag some independents as well. This is in stark contrast to Rubio and Cruz and Perry, who are seen more as Tea Party darlings. And so they can toe the very hard-nosed, very strict conservative ideals. And so it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top on the Republican side. And I'll be looking forward to those debates for sure.
Absolutely. If nothing else, it will be entertaining, if absolutely nothing else. Folks, this is Benjamin Dixon with the Benjamin Dixon Show. I've been joined by the Reign of April. I want you to find her at Reign of April on Twitter. She's a mover and shaker, so I'm grateful to have her come and visit with us. And April, I never got a chance to thank you on air. Thank you so much for filling in for me while I was gone out of the country in the jungles, not the resort, but the jungles of Costa Rica. Thank you so much for filling in. And you did a great job, fabulous job, a lot of positive feedback for that.
Thank you very much. I appreciated the opportunity to do so. And I really enjoy your listeners. And so I was happy to do it. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. And also, guys, I want you to find her on YouTube. I'll put the link to her YouTube channel. She's just getting started with that channel. So I want you to go over there and follow her, subscribe to her, and check out all the videos that she'll be putting up in the near future. Thanks, April. And folks, we'll join you again next time.
Thank you.